The upcoming episode of Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch, titled Disaster at the Bead Site, promises to bring excitement and tension to viewers. This episode features Dwayne and Charlie as they tackle a challenging task, drilling down a smoke vent at the bead site. As they work on this project, unexpected problems arise, leading to a disaster that could change everything for the team. Chad and Josh are on a different mission. They decide to follow the fault line back to a collapsed mine. Their journey may uncover important information about the area's history and its hidden secrets. The connection between the fault line and the mine adds another layer of mystery to the episode, as they dig deeper into the past of Blind Frog Ranch. Takes a separate path in this episode by exploring an indigenous site in Ohio. This site holds clues that could be significant to understanding the mysteries surrounding Blind Frog Ranch. Eric's findings may provide valuable insights and lead the team closer to solving the puzzles they face. With multiple storylines unfolding, Disaster at the Bead Site is set to be an action-packed episode filled with discoveries and challenges. Fans of the series can look forward to a thrilling adventure as the team navigates the dangers and mysteries of Blind Frog Ranch. There are some places on Earth where the land just seems different, and Blind Frog Ranch in eastern Utah is one of those places. Locals say the land is cursed and holding on to treasures. Landowner Dwayne Oliner is determined to find what is hidden in the 7 underground caves on the 160-acre ranch. Dwayne has sunk everything he has into hunting for what he believes is a vast fortune of gold on his property. However, as he gets closer to finding the treasure, the land seems to hold on tighter, stopping him in his tracks. A bone-chilling wind clawed through the Uinta Basin as dawn broke over Blind Frog Ranch. Snow from the previous day clung to the rocky outcroppings and stubborn sagebrush, giving the land an eerie stillness. But the calm wouldn't last long. Dwayne Oliner had woken early. Something about the previous night's seismic readings from the underground caverns hadn't sat right with him. The earth had pulsed unnaturally beneath the site they'd recently dubbed the Bead Site, named after the mysterious cache of polished greenstone beads unearthed only a week prior. The beads, strung together in geometric loops, seemed ceremonial and ancient. They weren't the kind of trinkets early settlers would have carried. No, they hinted at something older. Something hidden. Oliner arrived on the site just before 7 a.m., camera crew in tow. The air was charged with tension. The team had planned to lower the lidar drone into one of the deeper vertical shafts connected to the bead chamber, a 300-foot descent into darkness. But the previous day's small tremor had shifted the ground. Cracks had opened near the main dig point, and new moisture seeped through the clay. Mud caked the ladders, and the winch cable to the drone had frozen solid overnight. When Charlie, the security consultant, reviewed trail cams from the night before, his brow furrowed. A strange distortion had passed in front of the lens at 3:14 a.m., a shimmering shape, translucent and fast. It wasn't an animal. And this wasn't the first anomaly. Electromagnetic pulses had repeatedly fried motion detectors around the bead site, and radios cut out every time the team got within 50 yards of the deeper chamber. Something was interfering. Despite the risks, Dwayne pushed the crew forward. The opportunity to get real-time imaging inside the lower cavern was too valuable to pass up. If there were artifacts down there, and signs of human or non-human activity, he wanted it documented. The drone was prepped, warmed, and tethered again with a new thermal cable. Carefully, the team lowered it down the vertical shaft, past layers of calcite-stained stone, bones, and fragments of old wooden braces. About 120 feet down, the signal flickered. At 180 feet, the drone's lights caught something astonishing. Carvings. deep gouges in the limestone, spirals and angular symbols matching the same patterns found on the beads. Then, at 212 feet, a shelf jutted from the shaft wall. Stacked on it, what appeared to be 6 copper or bronze cylinders, coated in green patina. Before the camera could zoom in, the feed snapped off. Total blackout. Panic ripped the team. The winch cable spun wildly, then jammed. Static erupted in the comms. Above ground, the earth trembled, a short, sharp jolt like a door slamming beneath the surface. Chad, running to stabilize the winch, slipped on the iced platform, injuring his shoulder. The drone was lost. Dwayne called an emergency stop. The bead site was no longer safe. Next few hours were chaos. The crew evacuated the dig zone. Geologist Eric Drummond, called in for a quick analysis, reviewed seismic data and the subsurface plates, likely triggered by destabilization from water erosion. But his expression said more. This wasn't just natural geology at work. Something had been disturbed. Later that day, while scanning the perimeter with a magnetometer, Jamie stumbled upon something buried just 15 feet from the original bead pit. A horseshoe-shaped anomaly. Digging began immediately, careful and slow. Beneath 3 feet of compacted soil, they uncovered a second catch, identical greenstone beads, strung in a different pattern, laid atop a slate slab. But this set was different. One of the beads bore an inscription, an etched spiral flanked by what resembled a sunburst. Archaeologist consultant Heather, who'd been called in after the first find, identified the pattern as a symbol used by early Puebloan cultures, yet the stone wasn't native to Utah. It matched deposits found only in southern Mexico. Transporting it this far, thousands of years ago, would have required knowledge, purpose, and power. Before she could inspect the bead further, disaster struck again. A deafening crack echoed through the canyon. A sinkhole erupted 10 feet from the new dig. Jamie, standing closest, was thrown back by the force. Cameras captured the moment the ground collapsed, suctioning snow, tools, and nearly half the crew's equipment into a black void. A cloud of dust rolled out, thick and choking. Everyone was accounted for, but Bailey. The episode shifted in tone. No longer a treasure hunt, it was a crisis zone. Charlie initiated a 24-hour lockdown of the bead site. The new sinkhole aligned almost perfectly with a seismic fault mapped months earlier, one the team thought inactive. Yet the collapses and anomalies pointed to something waking beneath the ranch. Later that evening, Dwayne met privately with Chad and Charlie in the operations trailer. Old site maps were reviewed again. Annotations in the margins of a 1962 survey caught their eye. A former uranium prospector had marked the area where the beads were found with a strange note. Lights. Sound. Cold air rush. Do not dig. A chill ran through the room. Returned to the slab bead to continue analysis. Under UV light, the inscribed spiral glowed faintly, phosphorescent. Not just a decorative marking, it seemed to be reactive. Tests on the beads themselves revealed a curious mix of minerals, greenstone fused with traces of manganese and an unknown compound, one not logged in the standard mineral database. She theorized that the beads might not be just ceremonial. They could be functional. Instruments of some kind, or keys. As the episode neared its conclusion, the team gathered around the main trailer for a briefing. Dwayne stood grim-faced. They had lost the drone, nearly lost a crew member, and uncovered what might be the most important and dangerous find on the ranch to date. The bead site wasn't just a dig. It was a doorway, and something on the other side didn't want it opened. The episode ended with a final camera pan over the bead site at night. Snow fell lightly, covering the sinkhole in a fresh blanket. But as the screen faded to black, one last thermal camera showed a faint heat signature, deep underground and moving. Highlights: discovery of the second bead catch. The second set of greenstone beads deepens the mystery, especially with the unusual inscriptions and mineral composition. The symbol hints at cross-cultural connections and potentially a lost civilization or unknown technology. Drone malfunction and collapse. The loss of the LiDAR drone and partial shaft collapse reveals the dangers of disturbing the site. Signals of intelligence or intentional interference raise new questions. Seismic disturbances, natural or not. The ongoing tremors suggests something destabilizing the area from within. A buried structure, perhaps, or a mechanism beneath the ranch. Sinkhole incident. A near-fatal cave-in underscores the peril. The ranch is more unstable than previously believed. Reinforcements and geological assessments are now critical. Historical tie-ins. Old survey maps and local legends begin aligning with current discoveries, hinting that the bead site has been known and avoided for decades. Next time on Blind Frog Ranch, Episode 7 teases the introduction of a new specialist in ancient technologies and a risky plan to map the underground cavern using fiber optic microdrones. But with weather closing in and the ranch showing signs of increasing instability, time may be running out.